welcome back to Deck Talk. I am Ben, and today I'm joined by the banterous of all Game of Thrones players. Is that your title these days?
You can call me whatever you like.
We've got Dave Bamford from Banter Behind The Throne, the very excellent and best UK podcast.
Hello.
So Dave, thanks very much for coming on.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Now, what have we got here today, Dave?
I've come on to talk about my Stark Conclave deck that I played at Battles of Summerhall a month or two ago, and which people may have seen on your stream already.
Yes, although there wasn't the most Conclave-esque game. If I remember, it was more just like Stark doing Stark stuff.
Yeah,
and that's not to say that's the fault of the build. That was just the way that game went was just like you needed to do Stark things because
yeah. And I remember I made a specific I was like, right, I need to trigger my Conclave here to do this, and as long as the top card of my deck isn't this one specific card, then this is the right call. Oh balls! Now I've got to make another challenge to turn them back round again on a valid turn, so it's just a complete waste. But there you go. That's the fun of the deck.
That is the fun. So I've brought Conclave up just to explain to people because I'm sure some people aren't fully aware what Conclave actually does. What is Conclave? What's its ability, and why do you run? Why is it a good idea to run Conclave?
Okay, so in your Conclave deck, you may run non-loyal Maester characters from any faction, and you must have at least 12 Maester characters. And before you place your setup cards, so after you've decided whether to mulligan, before you actually choose what to set up, you place the top 7 cards of your deck face down under your agenda, and you can look at them any time. And as a reaction, after you win a challenge in which you control a participating Maester, you choose one card under the agenda and switch it with the top card of your deck.
Cool. So, what's the big advantage of this? I mean, I assume you're basically making your deck 7 cards smaller.
That's a key one. Yeah. Okay. There are a number of different things that make the Conclave interesting. I've been trying on and off since it came out to play it. I've found Stark's probably the best for it, although I made quite a good Tyrell deck a few weeks ago. And I'm going to be trying more, and I'll talk about them on Banter in the new year once I've had a chance to play all the houses with it. But the main thing about Conclave is that, for one thing, it makes your deck 7 cards smaller. And you know what those 7 cards are, so you're going to be drawing into, hopefully, more efficient things. Now, obviously, if you don't see any Maesters, you can't access those cards. Sometimes you only get Maesters under your Conclave, or mostly Maesters, and then you're just like, well, fine, now I've got in my case, a 54-card deck, which is just much more efficient, which is great. The other thing is that, obviously, you can dictate what you draw to a certain extent, which I'll get onto in a minute. But there is, of course, the advantage/disadvantage of having 12 Maester characters. Depending on your deck, that can be a good or a bad thing. Now, in my deck, I don't know if will you have the list up at this point?
Yeah, the list is up at the moment.
Oh, fantastic. As you can see in my deck, there's Maesters from all sorts of different houses. Now, Stark's happy to run Maester Lewin anyway. Obviously, you probably wouldn't see him 3x in many builds, but in this, he's a good, solid Maester who gives you insight and Brand's immunity, which is just good abilities.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Now, in most of my Conclave builds, I actually run 3 Crescent, and the reason I don't have 3 Crescent here is because I left one in another deck by accident. So normally, the first thing I do is put 3 Crescents in because he's the best attachment, one of the best attachment control cards in the game.
Yeah.
There's loads of Milk, loads of Ward, loads of Frozen Solid going around. At worst, he's just a power icon, so he's great. Maester Kaliot and Maester Aemon are just solid cards. You can use them to fill out your Maester curve. That's not a problem. Going forward, obviously, there'll be more and more Maesters coming. So it's only going to get better when you can get a more rounded set of Maesters, and hopefully we'll see some more in-house ones for factions which don't have such powerful ones. Tyrell doesn't really have any good in-faction Maesters, and when you're not playing Stark, you can't really bring Crescent. Lewin.
No.
Because what's the point?
Yeah.
So yeah, who else? Yeah, Wendermere and Pylos. I'm not running Pylos here, but Wendermere and Pylos are solid stealth icons, and Kedri is I think he's the card I added in because I didn't realize I didn't have all the Crescents in there. But he's good at just a surprise put to the sword, which you just drawn from the top of your deck is decent. So depending on your deck, the Maesters can be a bonus in themselves. And in this instance, getting the attachment control from Maester Crescent is great. Lewin's fine, and the others are just kind of okay. But the real bonus in playing the Conclave, and the reason that you want to run it normally, is the fact that you can manipulate what's on top of your deck by winning a challenge with a Maester. And you can get a lot of different bonuses from that. There's the simple ones, which is using, putting Ward on top of your deck and then kneeling your Citadel Novice and drawing it immediately. So that's a nice, easy example. In the original build of the deck, I used to run Gates of Winterfell because I could put any Stark card on the top and just draw it at action speed. Obviously, there's a lot of non-Stark cards here. It's still worth... the Citadel Novices get enough use out of the 4 attachments and the other Maesters to warrant being in there still. But the fact that the other one's a location meant it wasn't so important. Especially now we have Wyman Manley, who allows you to draw cards whenever you like.
He's pretty good.
Which means that whenever you win a challenge with a Maester, you can draw one of 7 cards under your Conclave, essentially, if you've got Wyman on the board. The good thing as well is that he doesn't trigger off Stark characters being sacrificed. It's any characters. So you can use your Maesters as Wyman fodder if you need to. Lewin is the best Wyman fodder in the deck because you can keep him, if you can sack him, put him in your bin, bring him out for flea bottom every single turn. He's one of the stronger Maesters. He gives keywords. He's a Stark character for Rob Stark. So he's brilliant, obviously. But there's just so many interesting things you can do, whether it's just filling your hand back up with good cards with the Citadel Novice, or whether it's actually chaining important effects. So obviously you can see in the events are where it's really interesting. So obviously Winter is Coming, classic. You can go from, when you're going to get the Winter is Coming because you put it on top of your deck yourself. If you see 3 Winter is Coming in the Conclave immediately, then you're just loving life because you just pull them out whenever you want. They're always safe from injury claim because you can draw them during the challenge you want, the action before you play it, which is great. I previously ran I Am No One, which I've now dropped for Off to Girl Town. Obviously, the Maesters, one of their main weaknesses is the fact that there aren't very many military icons. So Off to Girl Town's pretty good on that. And then you've also got the big Stark characters and Wyman who benefit from the 3rd icon as well. Put to the Sword it doesn't have to be there. It just seemed fun. And it makes Kedri useful. So that would be one of the first cuts, I think. Especially as I felt this deck was a bit lighter on economy than I'd have liked. But again, it's an interesting event that you can draw. Firstly, if you win a military challenge with a Maester and the Blackfish, you can put it on top, draw it, and play it immediately, all during one challenge resolution. But even just you win the power challenge with the Maester, draw it with anyone, and then win the military challenge. And it's quite good when it's just one of those cards that if it's stuck in your hand, it can be there forever. But if you know it's on demand, basically whenever you need it, it just wins you games. And not many people play it anymore, so a one-off's pretty fun.
That might be changing soon with the new agenda.
Yes, until Thursday. People are playing. Oh, thanks for reminding me. Have we seen any Maesters from the new box?
There's one. It's a non-unique. When it gets discarded, you both players shuffle the discard piles into their deck. So it's the anti-pillage card.
Yeah, you don't want him in this because you need the cards in your discard pile for Flea Bottom.
It's also an anti-Flea Bottom card, but I'm not sure if you're running three copies of a 1 strength Bicon to stop Flea Bottom. I think there's better counters.
Yeah, not in this deck, not in this deck. But at some point, we'll get more Maesters.
Yeah.
Good Maesters. And they'll just give you more diversity. Obviously, another great card, the other event, is Healing Expertise, which you don't see outside of Conclave decks.
No.
And that is, like, apart from Crescent, that's kind of the best reason to play Conclave, other than just the fun of switching your stuff around, because it allows you to plan for your own Valor so easily. You pop it on top of your deck, you draw it. You can draw it in Dominance to keep it safe, and then just flip Valor, kneel your Maesters, and of course, when you use kneel a Citadel when you kneel a Citadel Novice to play Healing Expertise, you get to trigger it and draw it if it's an attachment or Maester. So you can set up it so you get the Healing Expertise out of your Conclave, you draw it, and then you put a Maester on top of your deck. You Valor, you save your important characters using the Citadel Novice, and you immediately draw another Maester to get the Conclave going again. And it's just little things like that, playing around with manipulating your hand, that make it really interesting and really fun to play. And as I said earlier, if you don't draw your Maesters, it doesn't matter, because that just means you're drawing all your Stark stuff.
Yeah.
And that just means you're going to win the game anyway.
Stark's pretty good right now here.
Yeah, it's just they make the deck tick along a little better when it goes well. Yeah. There are instances where you only draw Maesters, and that's an issue, because they are small and do not have military icons.
It's been one of the problems whenever I've looked at going, right, let's play one of the the less used agendas, and you come to Conclave, you look at the Maesters, and there's like 1/5 cost one, I want to say. Neutral. And he seems a bit meh. Obviously there's the 5 cost Aemon, but he's a really specific build, and I don't think it's really what you want from Conclave. And I think he's loyal as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and so's Pycelle. Both of those would be great cards to just slot into Conclave decks, but
yeah. So the but then when you look at the curve, and on here it's a very top heavy curve towards the 1, 2, and 3 costs section of it, and that's because of the Maesters. It'd be really cool. You say we got some 4, 5 cost Maesters that were neutral that could hopefully bulk on this at some point, especially as this is an evergreen agenda.
Yeah. Well, we've got 2 more boxes to come, and anything of the Greyjoy box, if we're lucky. But if we've already got a Maester, we probably won't. So there hopefully will be Maesters in the next few boxes. Maybe we'll get like a 7 cost Crescent in the Barrow box.
Hopefully in the next cycle as well, because obviously it's still set around King's Landing. There's Maesters in the small council. There's lots of Maesters in there, so maybe
neutral Pycelle.
Yeah.
Or at least non-loyal. Yeah. One of the cool things you can do that isn't just to do with the challenges phase is setting up your draw for the next turn to do with your and that's when the plots come into it.
Yeah.
So obviously close call's decent, because if you're going to draw a dupe of a dead character. You can you can put a character that's dead on top of your deck when you want to resurrect them, and immediately draw them in the plot phase. Ranger's Cache is more interesting, because you can flip it, put Healing Expertise on top of your deck, and then draw it right before your own Valor. After reserve. So I found that not as consistent as I'd like, but it's fine. A plot that I used to run is Summon to Court. Is that what it's called? No, it's not. It's the other one.
The one which is you pick the top card of your deck if it's a character put into play. It's called In Service.
Called In Service, yeah. That has been really good, if slightly inconsistent, in that it was great because you can look at what cards you have on setup and look what's in your Conclave. And often I'll have, I've got Rob in my hand. I've got Rob and Eddard in my hand, and I've got a copy of Rob in my Conclave. So what I can do is I'll set Eddard up, and turn 1 I'll win the challenge, put Rob on top, put him into play for free turn 2, and then dupe him immediately. So obviously that's a great economy card when you know what's going to come. But in the right circumstances, this allows you to top deck a Healing Expertise and play it immediately on your opponent's Valor. Although you'd have to win initiative, and they're both 0, so that's a bit tougher.
So if you're losing the game, and
Which you are, because you're playing Conclave. But yeah, it's just a really fun deck to play. Just fiddling around with what's on top of your deck, and hopefully we'll see that.
Yeah, I do.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's just like what is this nonsense?
the word phrase got. So obviously, I was going just looking at some other cards there. Obviously, the base of this is a core Stark deck, if anyone is wondering, which goes on there. One thing to say when you're talking about other factions as well, because obviously this might be of interest to people. Obviously, I assume is Old Town with Conclave would be pretty good.
It is. It's really good. That's the next Maesters deck I built. I played it at a small G&K in London and went 2-1. Lost to a Tyrell Dragon deck that just did Tyrell things more efficiently.
Is that the Voltron Renly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did Tyrell things quicker.
Yeah.
In that build, I wasn't running Valor, although I should have been. And that's mainly because I only had about 2 practice games beforehand. So I didn't really have a chance to really set in. And I would have won that game with a Valor. Yeah, the thing about the Tyrell deck is that you can... Firstly, you've got Old Town, which allows you to gain power and the draw, because you know exactly what's on top of your deck. You've also got Mark Mullendore. So you could put Renly on top of your deck and then win a challenge with Mark and immediately put him into play.
Oh, God, yeah. The Monkey Knight, sorry.
Yeah. You've got other ways to do that in Tyrell. You've got Bear and the Maiden Fair and stuff. But when it's just your agenda and you can pick from 7 cards every time, it's really strong. And if you're slightly behind at the beginning, you can put the red wine straights into play, and you know it's coming because you've won the challenge. And if you've got, obviously, you're running off to Gold Town potentially, and some of the Maesters have intrigue icons, so you can do it all in one challenge. Win the challenge with a Maester and Mark. Put Renly on top of your deck, switch them round, and then you just trigger Old Town and draw Mark again and claim the power. And that's a really strong deck, it's just as fun to play. But it feels like. Yeah, because if you can get Old Town, it's probably better.
Right.
But if you didn't see Old Town, it isn't, basically.
And going from what you're saying, obviously, the fact that Tyrell lack their own Maesters, I assume your Maester package is slightly worse?
Yeah, so I had to run the 2-cost neutrals, the 2-for-2 Bicons.
Right, the House Maesters.
Yeah, so I had to run a couple of those to replace the Lewins, basically. I did get to run the 3 Crescents. And I think I ran a Lazy Leo and a Maester Balabar. Okay. But they just really weren't necessary.
But that's one way you can stand a character, isn't it? Move out a challenge?
Maester Balabar's the one, you remove someone from a challenge if they've got the lowest strength.
Yeah.
Which doesn't always happen because you've got the Maesters. And then Lazy Leo, when he comes out of Shadows, you shuffle... any number of events back into your deck, which is pretty great with Off to Gold Town and Red Pride and Healing Expertise as your main event package.
The other thing to say, and I don't think we did mention on Off to Gold Town, but obviously if you've already set up your deck, obviously you do draw a card with Off to Gold Town when you play it, which obviously combos very well. The other one I was thinking about as you're going through, I love Crescent in this because Crescent he's always, when you put a Crescent into an intrigue chat, it's one of my favourite things. You go, first action, Crescent, or first challenge, Crescent Intrigue by himself, and your opponent goes...
You mean Kaliot, I assume,
okay,
right?
Kaliot, sorry. And your opponent goes, right. What do I... My choice here is either to let you take a card out of my hand, or you're taking an icon off me. And now your opponent's got the choice of you're removing a very important icon, or you're taking a card out of my hand and choosing your top card.
Yeah.
He's just... Yeah, and he's always one of my favourite Martell cards, and that just makes him even more of a messing with your opponent's minds. Yeah,
he's probably my second favourite of the Maesters after Crescent. Crescent's just so solid and important and frees up so much, like frees up plot space and stuff. Yes. But Kaliot is one which really just causes chaos once he's on the table.
The one other thing to hit on is obviously there's no like Maesters chains or is it the keys, the latest ones? They're just not worth it in the build.
It's mainly just slots. Like, you need to run more characters than you would normally, because if you get 7 characters in your Conclave, you're obviously drawing fewer characters. So and the fact that in Stark, you're also sacking characters. So I felt I needed to run slightly more than I would normally at 37, which means obviously I've got less room for other things. And you really want to be playing around with the fun events. The glass candle would be fine.
Yeah.
The Maesters chain, probably not worth it because you have to kneel the Maester as well, don't you?
Yeah, kneel the Maesters. Yeah. So, and obviously you've basically got Crescent for that anyway.
Yeah. So if for some reason you couldn't run Crescent, then maybe you'll use that as attachment control.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, attachments are good in these decks because of Citadel Novice, which makes me wonder if Ranger's Cash should just be exchange of information because I am running the full suite of different cards.
And exchange of information is a very good card.
Yeah. It doesn't give you the top card of your deck, of course.
No.
They're almost guaranteed not to get that healing expertise when you want it. But pure card advantage could be worth it. Or just a classic coppers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, and that's one of the great things we're at with Thrones now is there is lots of these plots which are interchangeable and are worth trying out because they do different things in different ways. We're not as we were back in like Cycle 1.
Yeah,
where there was about probably 10 plots you saw regular play.
Yeah, there's a few more now, luckily.
Yeah, a few more.
But I mean, Heads on Spikes is only in there because honestly, that could be pretty much any plot in the game. Like, Heads on Spikes is a great one, and it has been really useful. But it doesn't need to be there. It's not a rush deck. It can rush, but it's just a solid, good initiative, fine gold, interesting effect card. Really, you need Valor.
Yeah,
and then you need some money plots and close call, and then the rest is kind of just whatever you want, really. It's quite versatile.
I'm also finding Valor Magoris. I've enjoyed using a lot of Valor Magoris recently because it seems that most people are running Valor Daharis.
Yeah.
So you can really catch people out when they just assume you're on Daharis, and then also new Magoris, and they're not ready for it.
Yes, and of course, most people don't know that healing expertise is a card.
Yes,
so it's even more of a shock because they go, okay, well at least you valid this guy off.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's still alive, and I'm drawing cards for my Citadel Novice. So,
brilliant. Okay, well, okay, guys, I think at that point we're going to jump onto the Iron Throne and play a game. So this is the end of part 1. So do look out for part 2 on this feed.